when it comes to making important decisions, I'm one of the most rational men you're going to come across. I am not moved off emotionality and rhetoric. I don't give a damn about that shit. With that said, the most important things to me as to why I'm voting for Trump are as follows. First thing, most important thing, the United States sovereignty. One of the things that the Biden-Harris administration is looking to do is go ahead and give our sovereignty and our right to govern ourselves over to the United Nations and the World Health Organization. Okay, should we undergo any type of weather emergency, another health emergency like a pandemic or anything like that, right? They're going to be looking to do away with the Constitution, and we're going to be governed by the United Nations and the World Health Organization. And we know that the World Health Organization was untruthful during COVID, right? So this is not an organization that we can trust. Okay, now I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'm gonna move on. Next thing that's important to me is these borders, right? If we can spend 150 billion to 450 billion, depending on what source you get it from, per year, and we haven't given brown people reparations yet, and I don't give a damn about reparations, I'm gonna just let you know now, but we haven't done such a thing as that, or even taking care of the people, no matter what color you are, taking care of the people in this country, you tripping. You definitely tripping. So we know that they are also letting in they're not just letting in illegal migrants and they're giving them our tax dollars, but they're letting in terrorists as well. And this is a treasonous act by the federal government. All right. The Department of Justice and the Biden administration, they're suing Texas for protecting their borders right now. All right. So this is actually something that's planned. It's not a mistake. This is not happening by chance. All right. This is actually something that the World Economic Forum is pushing, is for borderless countries. With that said, I am not with it. All right. So you spending all this money on migrants, you giving them money out of the Social Security program. We was already talking about how there was not going to be any Social Security for us by the time we retired. And now you're giving all of that money away to the migrants, right? We talking about migrants with tens of thousands of dollars, $5,000 in cash, $15,000 in food stamps per month, or however they doing it, right? But you got people here that's struggling and can't even get by. So now we got the migrants. We know what's going on here. Violence is increasing in all of our major cities. We heard about what happened in Aurora, Colorado. We heard about what's going on in Springfield, how they're about 20 to 30 to 40% of the population now. We heard about what's going on in New York. Soon as the mayor of New York decides that he is against the migrant crisis, they go ahead and start launching an investigation on him. Anyway, let me not get into detail. All right. Another thing that's important to me is gender affirming care. This administration is looking to make our children gay. If you don't know what gender affirming care is, I advise you to look into it. All right. And just imagine this. You send your son to school and he decides in his mind that he doesn't want to be a boy anymore. He wants to be a girl. He can proceed with the gender affirming care and get his stuff chopped off and cut off. And the thing about it, these kids can tend to have a regret about this later in life, but he can get it cut off, and you are not entitled to knowing that information. You're not entitled to their medical records. Okay? So there's an attack on our children. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not with the LGBTQ community. I have people that I love within the community, but as far as what the agenda is and what they're pushing, I'm not with it. You're not going to destroy my children. So that's one of the most important and pressing issues to me. Trump is not with that. The Democrats are for that. Not to mention, Kamala is spending tax dollars on getting prisoners transformed from male to female and whatever. All right. I'm not with that. Another thing, the Dems, they forcing these electric vehicles on us. I'm not with it. Why? I know y'all seen the Obama movie, right? And all the other countless movies where you see electric vehicles on the road and something happens to the grid, which we are experiencing, which we are getting warnings that something is going to happen. A cyber attack is going to happen. We get all these different warnings, but y'all want us to get electric vehicles. That is another form of control. You want us to get these electric vehicles so that if anything happens, we are not mobile. We can no longer get away from whatever danger that we're in. I'm not with it. And talking about control, the Dems are pushing for a central bank digital currency. I'm not with that. Why am I not with it? Because a central bank digital currency, let's say you do something that the government deems to be treasonous, right? In which we know they've let all these illegals and these terrorists into the country, which I don't feel safe at all. But they've let them all into this country. And let's say, for example, you do something that the government considers treasonous. They can shut off your money supply and you can no longer take care of your family. Yeah, central bank digital currency, right? Now they're going to propose everything as if it's a good thing and it's a great thing. But in reality, it is going to be the worst thing for you. And most of you are going to flock to it, and you're going to enjoy the benefits and the convenience of it, not knowing that once you step out of line or you go against the power structure, you are in trouble. Another reason why I'm voting for Trump, he's going to mitigate the possibilities of further war and potentially end the current proxy wars that we're in right now. We've heard countless times the Ukraine war is something that shouldn't have happened. Hopefully we can get an end to the Israeli war. Also, I like the idea of no tax on overtime. You work hard as an American in this country. We are taxed here, there, and everywhere. So for you not to get taxed on putting that extra work in at your job is a fucking amazing thing. And I'm for it. And of course, we know Kamala adopted the no tax on tips, which Trump already put into, already said he was going to put into place. But I'm for that as well. No tax on tips. Speaking of taxes, I like the fact that Trump is not gonna tax Social Security. Why would you tax Social Security in the first place? It don't make sense. So I love that for our seniors. Trump, as a businessman, as a stern man, he's going to ensure that we negotiate better terms with other countries. I know you've probably heard of the Russia deal that was negotiated where we gave away the fucking Russian merchant of death, but we got back some innocent. So I'm glad we got the Americans back. Let me not play games. I'm glad we got our Americans back, but we gave away, that was a multi-country trade, and we've given away to Russia some of their most prized possessions when it comes to war. It was a bad deal. All right. But we need someone that's going to step in and be able to negotiate better terms for us. And I think we also gave billions of dollars as well. Another thing that I like that Trump is going to do is he's going to audit the federal government. Federal government spending is atrocious, right? We haven't had anyone look into this in I don't know how long we've had it. I think it's been since the 70s or something. I don't know. Don't quote me, but it's been a long time since we had somebody go over the fucking federal budget and see what can be taken out and what can't be taken out. How do you go decades without doing such a thing? Right now, I served 6 years in the military, and I'm aware that you get a certain budget allotted to you per year. Right. And if that money is not spent within that fiscal year, the federal government is going to decrease the amount of spending, the amount of money that they give you for that next year. So guess what? Just so we don't have to decrease the amount of money we get, we go ahead and we spend let's say you had a surplus of $3 million. You make sure that you do whatever you can do in your power to spend that $3 million. And so that is not fiscally responsible. In a business, you look to save. If you can have an excess and a surplus in a business, you've done a great job. If you can have a surplus in the federal government, you need to continue spending. There's other things that are important to me, but these are some of the most pressing issues. As it pertains to abortion, though, I didn't touch on that. I know that's like the number one thing that everybody's championing for is abortion and women's rights. And guess what? You can control that. We can't control them spending all of these dollars going overseas. We can't control them allowing these migrants coming into the country. We can't control all of these different issues. But when it comes to the right to end your unborn's life, we have the right and the ability to control that before it even gets that far. All right. Now, don't get me wrong. I am for women to be able to make their choice, as long as it's not late term, and as long as it's, if it's in the case of rape and incest, I'm not with that. End that. Terminate that situation. I'm not a big fan of it either way it goes. But that trauma that you living with, I can't. It's hard for me to go ahead and tell you to keep that. So I am for women to be able to end it at up until a certain point. I don't know exactly what my point is. I just don't want you doing it at those 6, 7, 8, 9 months. So I'm for it. But for the most part, everything else is more conservative for me. I understand that there's some things that have been put in place that have destroyed the fabric of America. I'm gonna tell you this: the best nations have high morality, right? So once you start losing your moral integrity and you start having women rebel against the men, and you start having people think it's okay to deal with the same sex, and once you start having throwing drugs into the country, flooding the country with drugs and fentanyl, once you start doing all of these things and you attack the people in these types of ways, then what happens is you get a nation that's divided, right? When America was supposedly a Christian nation and we didn't start taking God out of everything, then this country was thriving. But once you started taking God out of everything, everything started faltering. These are the reasons why me as a black man is voting for Trump in America in the year 2024.